Well, this is it. We're here live in color and ready to rock and roll. Welcome to Squared Circle Professional Wrestling. I am WB Ward, and sitting next to me over here is the one and only Chip Douglas. What's up, Chip?
Doing well. How are you, WB?
I can't complain. Got the ex-wife, got the TV. Everything is working, so hey, life is good. What can I say? This is the... goodness, I can't believe we're actually doing a maiden voyage of Squared Circle program. I'm even calling that by the right name. I mean, Squared Circle Insider Wrestling. See, I am so I'm so new to this thing that I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what do we call this show?
Well, we just make it up as we go.
Okay, well, I guess that's a good way to go. So now that we're up and rolling, what the hell do we talk about?
Well, we are here to inform and to talk about an entertainment / sport
this isn't
that
right.
is near and dear to our hearts, and that is the wonderful world of professional wrestling, or in the South, wrestling.
Wrestling.
Is not live.
Yeah, we're in Oklahoma. It's wrestling.
It's wrestling. We're back to the Bill Watts territories here.
Enough. Yeah, I can't believe this. Been a year. Okay, what you guys just heard was actually the opening few minutes of our very first episode that was done 1 year ago today. Wasn't that kind of slick and snazzy?
I like that.
Isn't that cool?
I like that.
And 52 episodes, man.
Woo.
I'm WB Ward.
And I am Chip Douglas.
For our 52nd time with SCI Wrestling. Man.
Boy, how far we came.
I'm all a goose a pimply.
You know, is this happy birthday?
Yes.
All right, well, I just want to go ahead and throw a special shout out since it's playing to my co-host, WB Ward, who is going to be celebrating that birthday.
Oh, you remember.
In the coming week. 56 years old, yep. I believe.
Begin my 56th revolution around the sun.
So, from SCI and from me, happy birthday, WB.
Well, thank you. That was not a subtle hint. that was for the show.
I knew it was supposed to be, but that has worked out perfectly.
Well, that did kind of work out nice. But bless you. I do welcome all emails. So, ladies, send them early and often. Flirtatious and suggestive are encouraged.
Absolutely.
Anyway, okay, so where did we start? What the hell did we wrap up the first year?
Well, I mean, we have an exciting show planned for today.
Yes.
Because not only do we have one guest, we have not only two guests, but we have three guests.
My gosh.
Lined up for today's episode of SCI Wrestling.
That's a half a six-pack.
You're right. That's about what Bill can drink, and that's about it.
That's where I learned to count.
So we're excited about the show. I really wanted to make it a spectacular type show. I think we've done it. The original plan was to have four guests, with Marcus Hathcock being one of them. But unfortunately, he had some emergency tooth problems.
Has to work on his head.
So he was not able to make it on the show today. But never fear, we do have three other guests. We have none other than Jeremie Poplin from the Big Show here at 1430 AM The Buzz.
Stars.
Who is new to the show.
Yes.
He's listened to the show.
Yes. Oh, he's the one.
Oh, he's the one.
I was wondering who that was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He's the one. I recently was able to do his show, and he's a great guy, big wrestling fan. I'm excited to have him on here.
We're in the presence of greatness.
Absolutely. Then right after that, Mr. Donald Wood himself.
Yay, the Woodman.
Bringing back the Woodman from Ring Rust Radio and Bleacher Report.
You think he's come out of his shell yet?
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so, but we'll see. And then last but not least, Jeremie Poplin's co-host and partner in crime, who we've had on the show a couple of times, Mr. Chris Plank, is going to be back on the show.
That'll put some zippity in your doodah.
Absolutely. Man, I'm excited.
Yeah, this will be some interesting insight into professional wrestling, and also a bit of a sneak peek about how we're going to be doing our second year. But we'll drop some subtle hints, but not too much detail in that coming up. Since we are in kind of a wrestling mood,
right? Just should be.
I would, if at all possible, I would like to talk about my favorite audio sound of the year.
Okay.
This was my favorite quote of the entire year from, of course, the WWE. Let's see if I can get it rolling here.
You're big on getting in people's faces.
That's, of course, Dusty Rhodes.
Cross the line, old man. Don't cross the line, old man. Let me tell you something. One stipulation. I'm in my boy's corner, and I'll be your huckleberry all night long.
I love it. That's my line of the year. And did you ever find out what that was in reference to?
No.
I heard today a hint that was actually a reference to some movie.
Really?
And I have no idea what movie that was. Maybe somebody out there will undoubtedly send us some kind of a message saying, hey, you idiot, it came from this movie here. And I didn't know that. I thought that was just a what would have to be called a Rhodesism. I know it nearly gave me a Rhodesism when I heard it.
Absolutely. I remember watching that live and just thinking, what?
Do you remember what that was surrounding?
Well, it was surrounding the Rhodes brothers getting fired.
Yeah, and them coming back. And who did they wrestle? Do you remember?
The Shield.
Was it the Shield they went up against?
Yeah.
Was it?
Because it was for the tag belts.
That's right. And, of course, they defeated the Shield.
Yeah, it probably, that Monday Night Raw where they did fight the Shield, probably one of the top 5 matches of the year, or at least the year of the show. Definitely one of the top matches there was.
Awesome. Well, shall we get to the guests? When do we do this? Or
let's do it. Let's get our first guest on the show.
Okay, and I believe up first we're going to have the one and only Jeremie Poplin.
Correct.
Hello?
Jeremy, it's John.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John. John's my real name. Chip from SCI Wrestling. How are you?
What's up, brother? How are you, man?
I am doing terrific, man. Just sitting here with WB Ward, celebrating our 1-year anniversary as SCI Wrestling, and we're excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
No, man. Thank you guys. I appreciate the invitation.
Mr. Poplin,
yes,
it seems like I've known you forever, and I don't think you and I have ever met, have we?
Yeah, we have.
We have?
If you remember, I was gonna tell Chip. I was gonna be like, I'm kind of pissed at WB because WB didn't tell me a long time ago when I first started working at Clear Channel to run from radio as fast as I could.
That's yeah. Well, I figured, hey, I earned my licks. I'm going to let you earn yours.
Yeah. Well, I still haven't learned my lesson, unfortunately.
Okay. Gosh, I hate to put you on the spot with this, but refresh my memory, Jeremy.
Well, I started at the Buzz probably in 01 when we were at
you were on 41st. Right. I remember you now. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was your name.
Absolutely. And you were going back and forth between Cool and KMOD at that time.
Oh Lord!
And when I was working at that time, I was just bullhopping just stuff at that time.
You were the guy with the backward baseball cap.
Absolutely, that was me all the time.
I remember that now. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I apologize. I am lousy at names. You can ask my ex.
No.
You can ask my ex-wife.
I'm just as bad.
What's her name?
I'll remember her name eventually.
So before we start talking about wrestling, one thing I do enjoy about Poplin, and because I do listen to 1430 whenever I can, listen to the big show, and he is. We celebrate something in common that you don't know about Poplin, and that is the hatred for Duck Dynasty as a TV show.
Oh, brother. Brother.
Because I remember listening to the show when Plank admitted to you that he was a Duck Dynasty fan, and I think you actually left the set there for a couple minutes. I
think I just had to walk away when he told me that. I couldn't believe that Plank, of all people, would allow himself to succumb to whatever you want to refer to that show as, and I felt like I was in a nightmare around Christmas time because you couldn't go anywhere in the city of Tulsa trying to shop somewhere without seeing something with their logo plastered on it everywhere. It was to the point I was just like, you know what? I don't even feel like leaving my house because I'm going to run into a freaking Duck Dynasty logo somewhere, and I don't get it. I don't get it, and I mean, more power to people, I guess, if you enjoy that. But I just watch it. And I'm like, people really watch this. This is incredible that people would watch this.
Could it be said that you were ducking the issue?
Yeah, you could absolutely say that. Well, and I need some birdshot in my you-know-what for even probably stumbling upon that show.
Okay, since we are getting into wrestling here, let me ask you a question about professional wrestling. This is going to be more of a philosophical question than anything, because I know, talking with Chip, that you're a diehard fan just like we are and just like Plank is. when it comes to wrestlers, what do you think plays more important into the performance of a wrestler being popular? His ability to wrestle or his ability to perform?
No. It's way more his ability to perform, because we've seen guys in the past. Now, don't get me wrong. I thoroughly enjoy someone that is a good ring technician, but I mean, you're also talking, like you mentioned, to a diehard. I'm going to enjoy both aspects of it. But to me, kind of in just the general mainstream sense, WB, it would be someone that has the ability to perform like that. And I think it's the charisma, it's everything that comes into it. And there are a couple of guys I think that are good wrestlers today. But they just don't have that extra it, and I think they're just missing that one small thing to push them over the top, right. To kind of bring themselves closer to the crowd and for them to buy into that storyline. I mean, you can be great in the ring all you want. I mean, let's face it, I loved Dean Malenko, for crying out loud, Absolutely. But Dean Malenko was never a big fan favorite by any means. Yep. It took a little bit more of a push from guys that were good technical in-ring wrestlers to finally for the crowd to buy in. I mean, at a certain point, I think the crowd gets it. They know, hey, this guy is a great ring master. He can work no matter what. He can carry matches if he has to, but we're not really emotionally invested in him. You have to have that emotional connection in order to get over in wrestling.
Yep.
Right, and I completely agree with you there. And of course, you bring up guys like Dean Malenko, a couple other guys that come to mind. It's sad to mention his name, but Chris Benoit. It took him a while to really get adjusted and get a feel for the character development. But as far as character and development and performers right now, who are you liking and who are you not liking in the current WBE roster?
Well, that question is difficult because I feel like that there are guys that I like, but I also feel like that there, for some reason, there seems to be like a lack of direction from behind the scenes, from whether it be the writing staff or they just don't know what to do with the guy. I don't know about
talking about for the past year.
Yeah, well, and I don't know about you guys, but dude, what are they doing with Dolph Ziggler? Like I said, that's wow. If I had a chance to ask somebody, one of the writers, any one of them, my first question would be, what are you guys doing with Dolph Ziggler? I don't get it. I don't get it. That's a guy that has everything, and he's proven that in the past, and then he gets lost in the shuffle. And I feel like that he got so popular to a certain point, and I think it was faster than what anyone expected, that they either A, ran out of ideas, or they don't know how to handle someone, because a lot of those guys are so old school behind the scenes that they're not used to seeing guys rise to a certain level of power like that. They're used to it taking years upon years of guys having to work like that, and things are different now. Guys can get popular extremely fast, and that's one of the ones that comes to mind. I love Jack Swagger, and I think Jack Swagger's great, but Jack Swagger's terrible on the mic, in my opinion.
Oh, he is.
Awful.
I don't get that. I think that he could be a lot better. Let's see, guys that I don't like. You guys are probably gonna hate me for this, but about a year ago, when Fandango first debuted, I was all in, man. I thought what they were doing with him was hilarious. I hated the fact at some point in time he had to wrestle, and I get that. I wish that instead of him debuting at WrestleMania, that he would have walked out on the stage and kind of made fun of Jericho and then just walked back off. Right. I think they could have extended that a little bit longer. But that's kind of a guy that's got lost in the shuffle as well. Guys that I don't like, I've never been a big, he's just another reincarnation of Rhino. He's another reincarnation of Goldberg. I don't like, who's the big Russian guy now?
Rusev or
yes,
Rusev.
Yeah,
Rusev. I'm not a Rusev fan. I'm not a Ryback guy. I'm not even a Big E guy. I think we've been there before, and it's kind of just, I don't know whether they want it to be an homage back to the old style of how it used to be, those guys that just have zero flexibility. They look like they can't move at all. They're gigantic muscle guys. But I don't really see any. I don't see any direction with guys like that. And maybe I'm wrong on that.
I'll tell you one person I would have really loved to see them work on as far as developing his character a little bit more. And that's, and as soon as I said that, of course, my mind went absolutely blank. He's the gentleman who comes out as the savior of the masses.
Damian Sandow.
Oh yeah,
Sandow. Yeah, I think the guy's got a good ring presence. They've been giving him some really stupid things to do lately.
Yeah.
And I think I really don't like his ring music. I'm one of these people I hear Handel's Messiah being used at a professional wrestling, and I'm thinking, okay, that's just wrong. But Damian himself, I actually saw him working a crowd with a microphone, just going in through one of the Comic-Cons and talking with fans. The guy was brilliant. He was just absolutely brilliant. I think he's a great example of, I think the WWE creative team and the writers need to back off and let him do his thing.
Does he kind of remind you a little bit of when Poffo did the Genius?
Yes,
that's kind of a little bit. That's a little bit of kind of what he reminds me of, and I remember thinking at that time, that what a great character that was. But I'm with you. Half the time, I'm like, they need to stop trying so hard behind the scenes with some of these guys and just give them a little bit more free reign. And I think if they knew they had more freedom, and there are guys that have freedom, obviously, but the ones that are like at his level, you can just tell behind the scenes they're just trying to work it into their head to be a certain way. But less is more in my opinion, in a lot of instances with those guys.
Well, I mean, we look at some big stars, and when did they get their break? They got their break when they were able to really develop themselves as an individual. I mean, you look at CM Punk. I mean, yeah, he had some superstar power to him, but it wasn't until they gave him the mic and said, "Say what you want," and he sat on the stage and said what he felt, to where it really took off even more. Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock. I mean, those are guys who had time or the opportunity to develop them. Who'd you say?
Bray Wyatt.
Perfect example.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, with Dolph Ziggler, it's actually there's a funny story actually came out to where Ric Flair told creative that he wanted to manage him, repackage Dolph Ziggler and make Ric Flair be his manager. And Rick actually is the one that pitched the idea, and WWE creative turned it down. And looks like right now they're going to pair him back up with The Miz, which is just awful in my opinion.
Oh, good grief! Like I said, man, it's lack of direction. There is something I wanted to ask you guys, because when I watch wrestling today, here's one of the problems I feel like that WWE has to address, and has to address rather quickly, and it's because of Daniel Bryan's injury. A lot of times now, the way I look at where the company is at as far as with faces and where the heels are at, obviously Daniel Bryan was their biggest face that they have, but tell me who's the next face after Daniel Bryan that is capable of being a main event guy now that Daniel Bryan is out. There's such a gap between, it's almost like how we look at the rich, like almost the classes today. There's the haves and the have-nots. There's such a large gap now between where the faces are at in that company that even though the break, I think, may end up helping Daniel Bryan, because, dude, the Demon Kane angle was terrible. Oh, yeah. It was almost like, all right, so you guys are going to do this again the same way you did with Zack Ryder. So this is going to be awful, and it's going to be bad for Daniel Bryan. I think that may have gotten them out of a hole with that angle, but other than that, what other faces are ready? Because I can't think of any.
I think the only people that I could possibly see, and it's guys that you're seeing right now, kind of taking the reins because they're kind of forced to, and that's the guys from the Shield. And even
that's a good point.
I mean, more than anything, you have to look at Roman Reigns and to me, Seth Rollins. Dean Ambrose, I think, is going to be an incredible heel one day. I don't think he will make superstar as a face, but as a heel, I think he'll be top notch. But you're talking baby faces. I mean, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins. I'm really into NXT right now. I think they have some incredible ready-to-go main eventers, guys like Sami Zayn and Adrian Dembele in NXT, which I think they could bring up to the roster and make some really big waves as faces right now in the roster, especially with Daniel Bryan being gone. Right now it says maybe Money in the Bank, which is about 2 months away. Right,
yeah. I know, and I agree. And I don't know whether you guys saw, but was it was Ambrose. Did Ambrose slip up to WWE Magazine when they asked him? I was reading this, it was yesterday or the day before, but I guess they asked him in WWE Magazine about who are some of the funniest guys to be around, and he said, well, my former partners. And I was like, wait a minute, you're former partners. So what does that mean? I know that Batista's got to take a step aside now. So does that mean that they're finally going to split all of those guys up and send them off into their single careers, into the direction that they should be?
Well, I brought it up last week on the show. Where do they go after Evolution? There's nowhere to go. Do they go back to the Wyatts again? I mean, and rehash that, or do you finally just let them go their own ways? And right now,
I think it's time.
It's the best decision. I think it's time.
Jeremy,
I mean, I do.
Jeremy, I tell you what, man, I got to tell you, I have sold you short, and my apologies to you. We've got to get you back on this show and have you on for a full hour with us. Dude,
I'm available anytime. I mean, first of all, congratulations to you guys for doing this for a year.
Thank you.
But I am available anytime. This is something that I wish that we could do more of on the show, and we do it a lot on our show anyway. And what's funny is 75% of the people love it, and the other 25 absolutely hate it. But, guys, I would talk wrestling all week if I could, if Chris would let me on the show at sometimes. But yeah, man, anytime. I would love to come on to dive in deeper, because it's crazy. You know, you talk to people that aren't fans of it and they don't get it, but I love the behind the scenes and just kind of the mentality that the guys come from, and different ways to look at directions to possibly head in with each individual character.
Right. Well, awesome. I mean, Jeremy, I greatly appreciate you taking this time to be on the show. We're going to have you again on soon. Thank you again, buddy.
No, man, you guys, thank you very much. And again, congratulations on the year.
Thank you. Take care.
And it was nice hearing from him. And, I felt kind of ashamed that I honestly did not remember him until he started dropping the hints.
I just loved how he mentioned the fact that, I'm actually a little pissed at you.
Well, you got to be in the business to really appreciate that.
Oh, are we ready to call Donald?
Oh, man, I tell you, I am so ready. Donald Wood is up next from Ring Rust Radio and the Bleacher Report.
Absolutely.
Hello.
This sounds like the incredible Donald Wood.
Incredible. That sounded nice. I like that. How you guys doing, man?
Doing well, man. How are you doing today?
A lot better now that I've been called incredible. I wish my wife heard this. I'm going to have to show her the audio of this. Take a listen.
It's more
You're
of a
walk
gimmick,
around
really.
with a big eye on your chest now.
We're trying to help you with your gimmick, that way you can get your career started in professional wrestling.
I never noticed it until just now, but you sound a lot like Seth Rollins.
Great. That's new Seth Rollins, not old Seth Rollins. Old Seth Rollins is yelling, I'm going to yell in the microphone.
You sound like the present Seth, doesn't he?
He actually does. I never thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
There is a resemblance. I'll be darned. By the way, you are speaking to the man, not Chip, but you're speaking to the man who, for the first time in our first year of broadcast, predicted a pay-per-view and got every single prediction right.
Okay, there's two sides to every coin. Well, I'm very proud of you. I feel like I'm watching a baby duckling grow to be a full-grown duck.
Shouldn't be.
You predicting a WWE pay-per-view correctly, is that good? Because creative has kind of sucked recently, and you predicting them all correctly kind of either you have an inside line on them sucking and you can read their suckability, or there's a little bit of you that has a little suck to it too.
Well, now, if I'm getting them all right and I suck, where does that put Chip? He didn't hardly get any.
That means I'm on track to what the actual people want.
Oh.
It means he's watching TNA. That's what it means.
You call that right? I feel sorry for you, the fact that you have to watch it every single week and have to write about it.
No, don't feel bad for me. Listen, you got to understand something. I was a fan of WCW until a Titanic, until the very last moment. I was the band on the Titanic playing until the ship went down with WCW. So I had to watch Sacrifice and Sin. And, so I'm used to awful wrestling, and there's something about that appeals to me. Like when Kali and Santino Marella did their Snake Charmer thing on SmackDown, right. I love that because there's a child in me somewhere that still loves. That's why I love wrestling, because I said I can suspend disbelief, and that's why I do kind of like TNA. I give TNA a chance, because I want an alternative. The real me wants an alternative. I want something besides WWE to challenge WWE, to give me a viable competitor. And while TNA isn't that, it's at least laugh worthy. It gives me something to laugh about on Thursday night.
Now, with that being said, I'm kind of going off a beaten track here. We've seen some reflexes coming on with new organizations popping up that are going to pop up. I mean, Jeff Jarrett's doing his Global Force Wrestling. AAA's coming to America. I mean, do you see any one of these organizations being a true competitor to WBE, or they all just kind of fall in line with TNA?
Okay, nobody's a true competitor to WWE. They have built such a conglomerate. It would take huge things. It would take not only huge financial backing, which I thought TNA had with Panda Energy, and they do have that. If they could get all their ducks in a row, they really could be a viable competitor to WWE. What you need to do, if I was TNA, if they gave me the reins, TNA tomorrow, and said, dude, fix this. I would need an unlimited budget. I would take Ring of Honor, and I would say, Ring of Honor, we're going to merge with you. Whatever it costs, you're now part of our company. We're going to do this thing like ECW and WCW did, where we exchange talents, and your guys come up here, and all that stuff. So I have a working basis. That gives you a hardcore audience built in. So all those fans who like WWE but don't like the stories that are being written, they can say, oh, look, all my indie guys are over here. Then TNA needs to take a guy like Paul Heyman, throw all the money at the world at him, and get him to come there and create characters for people to like. I'm not going to sit here and say that I can write better, but we can all write better than what's going on over there. But you need a guy who's got long-term direction. A guy like Paul Heyman knows the business. He knows today's business. And you say, you know what, dude, take all of this. Because there's a lot of great stuff there. There's a lot of great characters. There's a lot of great wrestlers, a lot of great ideas. It's just all jumbled up, and it's packaged in Universal Studios, so it looks cheesy because they tape 15. They're doing NXT-style stuff, where they're taping 5 weeks in a row and stuff. So TNA has a lot of potential. I just don't see them putting it all together until they give one chef the power to control the kitchen.
You know, one thing I would like to ask you, as Chip knows, I'm very much a fan of history. I love history. I almost eat, dream, breathe history. I'm on my 12th history book that I'm writing. So I'm really steeped in history. Every major civilization has fallen at some point. You know, the Roman Empire fell, the control of England that England had over much of that continent, they haven't fallen, but they certainly have dwindled. We saw that even within my lifetime, I saw the rise and fall of the Russian Empire. Do you see the WWE Network possibly being the catalyst that will eventually cause the fall and decline of the WWE?
Oh my gosh, this is wow. This is called what we call a 12th grade question. Honestly, I don't think it's. I'll try to answer it as fairly as I can. I don't think it's fair to compare its actual civilizations to the WWE. I think it's more fair to compare them to other companies that have succeeded and faltered over the years. Companies, as we've seen recently, let's compare them more recently to the automobile companies with all the bailouts that we had to watch recently because of their recession. I compare the WWE more to that. Now, Ford did not say they faltered. You had Chevy, they faltered. The problem was every company has low periods. Every company has high periods. What I think is this is what happened. WWE Network was released in the United States. 670,000 is around what it was at, right? That's right. What the purchase. So okay. So they valued it around $1 million after the first year. How many months into this are we? 3, 4?
Something
right?
Like
yeah, 3, 4 months now.
So we still have 6 to 8 months for them to reach their numbers, and they haven't release this internationally yet. I don't doubt that they're going to get to $1 million. I think that everybody's panicking. With the release of the WWE Network, the WWE stock went through the roof. It climbed crazy numbers, 150% in just a few days because of the rush to it. You know what I mean? That's called inflating your stock price. Well, eventually, that's going to drop, and you compound that by reaching a much lower agreement with NBC Universal, and of course you're going to have this dramatic drop of your stock prices. The thing is, it was already inflated to begin with, so the drop also looks inflated. You know what I mean? So if it was a 150% drop, it's actually only a 50% drop because they already jumped 100 when the network released. So they knew they were going to lose money with the network. They're going to lose $50 to $60 million, or $40 to $60 million, whatever they said it was in the first fiscal year. Now the thing is, once it releases internationally, you're going to get that's a lot of buys. You're going to get a lot of buys. Now, my biggest concern, I'm not worried yet. Actually, as somebody who kind of enjoys the stock market and playing around, I'm going to purchase it. It depends on how the stock does in the next couple of days. It just went up a little bit today. If it keeps dropping, I'm thinking about buying stock in WWE because there's no way a company like that, because look, the company's been through hell and back. They faced fiscal issues. They almost died in 1994. You know what I mean? This is not the first time they've come across this bridge. So what you do is you buy low. That's stock market terms. If I've ever heard it, you buy low. So if you buy low now, there's no way that there won't be another climb eventually. You know, Daniel Bryan comes back. WrestleMania season always drives the stock price up. So that we've passed that too. So there's another reason it's dropping. But honestly, the reason the stock price dropped so much was the NBC Universal deal. And WWE just psyched it up too much. They went wrestler promoter on us. And said, check this out, we're going to get goddamn 3 times as much as we were going to get before. You can put me in a headlock if we don't. Well, they didn't. They didn't. So, of course, and the thing is, Vince was never a publicly traded company until very recently. Right. So he's selling to these people, and he doesn't understand the ramifications sometimes, if I'm perfectly honest. So, the network, WWE is going to be fine. That's in a nutshell. WWE will be fine. They will not fail. They will struggle for a little while, and then they will go back to just going to do what they are. Wrestling's not cool right now. That's the thing. Everything's struggling. Every piece of wrestling, TNA is getting less than 1 every week. So wrestling in general is just not cool right now. But you know what? It wasn't cool in '94, and 3 years later, you couldn't find a kid who didn't have a Stone Cold shirt or an NWO shirt on.
Yep, I mean, I completely agree. And what's really great is the fact that they promoted this the new television deal to be like 150% more than what they bought, what was before, and all they got was 50% more. Well, that's still 50% more. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's a $100 million television contract. Is that correct?
I think it's even more than that, if I'm not mistaken, because I think that Major League Soccer got $90 million from ESPN. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but if you look it up, Google it, you can easily find it. I'm pretty sure they got more than that, but the problem was they were comparing this to the NASCAR deal. Oh. NASCAR got $800 million for their television deal, and that was the worst thing they could have done was even bring the word NASCAR into this, because NASCAR made television deals with 4 different companies at that point. You know what I mean? You got ESPN, TNT. So I mean, they're making deals left and right. This is just NBC Universal. Right. So I mean, they had their hands tied.
You know, the way we record this show, I know you were not able to hear the interview that we just did with Jeremie Poplin, but I asked him a question, and I'm going to ask the same question to Chris Plank, who's coming on after you. But I think you, of the 3, probably are the best qualified to actually address this question. In a philosophical sense, when it comes to popularity of a wrestler, which do you think plays in more? His or her ability to wrestle, or his or her ability to perform?
Perform, because listen, anybody, there's plenty of wrestlers. Let's go to TNA for a minute. Let's talk about Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, what some would consider 2 of the best technical in-ring workers going today. I don't care that much. I'm sorry. I love them in the ring. They're great in the ring, but they need a storyline and something intriguing and to sell me on the microphone. They got let's look at Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan. These guys aren't your technical savvy guys. These guys aren't your great technical in-ring wrestlers. But you know what? They can tell a hell of a story. Nothing in the world says you can't be both. You know what I mean? Look at guys, some of the best wrestlers of all time. Randy Macho Man Savage, a great example. Oh, yeah. He had both. You know what I mean? But a lot of people don't have both. But the biggest key is, can you get the crowd to buy you? Can you get yourself over? Stone Cold did it. Hulk Hogan did it. Neither of them had a very impressive moveset. You can still get to that. Here, you want to talk about non-impressive movesets? Hit John Cena, biggest star in wrestling in the last decade. And everybody bitches on his 5 moves at Doom. The guy can work a match and get good matches when he's with great competitors and get good matches with just regular competitors. Yep. But the most important thing is, does that crowd care about him? That is what gets you over. T-shirts don't sell because you're a whiz in the ring. They do on the indie scene. You know what I mean? If you're a technical master and everybody loves you, great, that's going to sell. But that's going to sell 500 when you're trying to sell 500,000.
Wow, I mean that's exactly what I was kind of looking for there, And it was what's, Poplin brought up like a guy like Dean Malenko, an incredible technical wrestler, but I mean, really didn't have the personality or the or character development to really shine as, say, a main event star. And you line him up against someone like who's really started about the same time as him, Chris Jericho, who.
Let me just a better example. One of the most famous ECW matches that I can remember seeing was Dean Malenko against Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Two guys who were absolutely equal technically, but one of those guys had the gift for gab, had the gift to get over, and that is a perfect example of how two guys equally as talented. I mean, I give the edge to Malenko, of course, and Malenko is the master of 1,001 moves per Chris Jericho. Yeah. So the truth is, you get a guy like Eddie Guerrero who's so smart and who knows how to tell a story and who could get himself over, and that's the real difference. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And did you watch NXT Arrival?
Of course, yeah. I watched that and Legends House over TNA, so I'm still waiting to watch this week's TNA.
By the way, I love Legends House. I say
Oh
that.
my God! Listen. Here's
balls.
Men out there. If you have a wife who doesn't like wrestling or anything like that, please make her watch Legends House. My wife, she already likes wrestling, but she loves this.
Really,
she loves
she does.
Yeah. Oh, dude! It's like I said, it's a great show. How can you not love this?
It's
just hilarious. It's just a bunch of old men acting ridiculous.
And of course, like my favorite line is the Mean Gene Holy Balls, and when he did that during the whole LAR contest of Jimmy Hart running to the woods to get help, it was just a great moment. But yeah, Legend House is a huge thing right now, and I'll have to try that whole woman thing. I haven't tried that. I'll try that.
Well, you gotta get a woman first. So that's a big problem for a lot of wrestling fans. I'm sorry.
This is true. Hey, dude, I tell you what, of course, these interviews on this show are going to be pretty abbreviated because we got 3 people on sharing a 1-hour show. We're going to have you on again as a guest for a full hour. Is that going to be a possibility?
Of course, man. You know what? We'll work something out, and I'll get on here, and I'll give you guys as much time as you need.
You're
awesome.
you're more awesome than a bowl full of beans in a busy maraca factory.
What?
I don't know what any of that means, but thank you.
Okay, man. You take care of yourself.
Take care, man.
Thanks, guys.
And it's always entertaining to speak with Donald Wood. Again, you can read a lot of Donald's writing over at the BleacherReport.com or listen to his podcast over at
Ring Rust Radio.
RingRustRadio.com. Is that the
No, Ring Rust Radio. It's you can find it on their just Twitter, Ring Rust Radio.
Okay. Twitter.
I think it's on Blog Talk.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's a great show.
show.
It is a good show. I have heard that. Those guys are pretty awesome. They
Absolutely.
almost do as good as we.
Almost.
Okay. I'm kind of all aflutter. We have our big guest star standing by, star of radio, and
we better be careful because we just had his co-host. We can't promote him that big.
That's true, but at least Chris has done television too.
He has?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, I know that.
He was a television spokesperson for Cox Cable for a while. He most certainly was. Let's see if the possibility about bringing on Chris Plank.
WB, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, I'm just kind of hanging out, hanging in, and hanging around, man. It's good to hear your voice again.
Well, happy anniversary, guys! What an awesome night and what an awesome celebration.
I can't believe that Chip has ever been able to put up with me for a year. And how many years did you guys put up with me?
Oh, geez, what? 3?
About 3, between 3 and 5. I know that it's got to be in that area somewhere. Yeah.
Poplin.
Yeah, it was.
We had Poplin on just a little while ago, and he actually told a story about how he was pissed at WB because he told him he failed to warn him about running away from radio.
Yeah, radio is one of those things that's a great side job. When it's your full-time gig, it's the most stressful, painful thing possible. That's the truth.
So tell me, how does it get into our blood as it does?
That's a great question. I think that it's fun. I think it's part of it. I think if you could take out the politics of it, I think it's the greatest job in the world. But it's more than just turning the microphone on and off. Unfortunately,
yes. I know since I have officially left the business, as it were. Even though I'm no longer in the business, goodness, I have my
right.
I have my daily syndicated show that's heard on the
Yeah,
Armed Forces
absolutely.
Network, and I do that every day of the week. And then once a week, Chip and I get together to do this. So you just can't get it out of your system. It just doesn't.
Nah, it's the greatest job in the world, man. I as much as we complain about it, I wouldn't trade it for anything except for a higher pay.
I hear you. Okay. I had a running question I was asking all three guests tonight. I'm going to ask you just like I asked Donald Wood and just like I asked Mr. Poplin earlier in the show. When it comes to wrestling, if you were to say what the most important thing of between two different subjects for a professional wrestler, which is more important for you? For he or she to be a great wrestler, or for he or she to be a great performer?
Oh, are you there?
Chris, are you there?
Yeah. When I was growing up, whenever I could probably give you a long-winded answer, so you're probably going to have to cut me off because this is when I wax nostalgically about an entertainment entity that I love so much.
Yes.
When I was growing up, what drew me to wrestling were the characters and the Von Erichs, the Ric Flairs, even the early Sting, if you will. And I was always a big Hands of Stone, Ronnie Garvin guy. So I loved those characters, but then again, what made me like it, Chris Adams was another one, may he rest in peace. What made me enjoy them even more was being able to watch them perform. And I guess maybe for me back then it was fight, to watch them fight and to see how they did it. So as much as I love the characters, I think, guys, when I first got into wrestling and I first started following it, and those people that kind of shaped the way in which I viewed and became a wrestling fan.
Oh, wonderful cell phone technology.
Is he there?
Are you still?
No, my fat face hit the mute button. I'm sorry. That was me. I'm sorry. But no, I think in those early times it was watching these guys that were, technically sound and then were able to perform the iron claw, if you will, and then be able to, the Irish whip with the smooth clothesline or, whatever the leg hold might be, the Garvin stomp. I love that technical side of it.
That was great.
Yeah, I know, right? It was all he had. And he would hit you with the fist, and he'd do the Garvin stomp. I'll never forget. It kind of shows where technology has gone because I was such a big Ronnie Garvin fan that they came through St. Louis, and I didn't get to go. And he actually had, I think it was the night before or maybe the week before, had won the title. And I remember I didn't have any friends that went, so I had to wait for the magazine to come out the next week to find out if he had won whenever he wrestled in St. Louis. And then I had to wait for the Pro Wrestling Insider magazine to come out the next week to see if he had lost his title bout against Ric Flair. Obviously, I just took a side road, so I apologize. But the point being is I love that. I love that technical side of it. Now, in 2014, to me, it's all about the showman. The technical wrestling, for the most part, is dead. The really good technical wrestlers like the CM Punks, the Chris Jerichos of the world, I think that's why they've soured on the sport a little bit because it's less about, are you and Daniel Bryan, I guess, is somewhat of an exception, but even the storyline is, hey, you're not flashy enough to be the champion. I think, to me, what I see now and what draws me back to it, I'm all in on Bray Wyatt right now. What got me back into wrestling in the early 90s after I had finished up college was the NWO. And, oh, my gosh, who's going to show up and who's going to join the NWO this week? So I guess from that perspective, WB, to answer your question, I love the technical side of it, but I also love that showman side of it. I also love that, and in that, to me, what it includes to me is that storyline side of it as well, too. So where it was, 20 years ago, maybe more like 30 now for me, I guess, if I look at it honestly, it was the Garvins and the wrestlers. Now it's the showman. Now it's the guys that are going to go out there and wow me with their mic skills, seeing he's got the whole world in his hands. That's kind of what it's become to me, and that's what really has kept me entertained over the last 15 years.
All right, so we Poplin brought up a really good question. I'm actually going to ask you that same question because it fits perfectly with the situation that wrestling's in right now. Daniel Bryan's injured; he's out for we don't know. Rumors are Money in the Bank. It could be his return. What face or what wrestler could you see right now step into his place and be able to carry the company as the main event player within the company?
Reigns.
Yeah,
I think without a doubt, and I think what's going to happen, because, boy, I am really intrigued. Are we going to see a storyline play out tomorrow night for the first time in a pay-per-view? In other words, are we? I mean, most pay-per-views are, hey, let's get to the wrestling, let's get these storylines wrapped up. It appears as if with this whole, hey, we're going to fire one of the Bellas if Dan Bryan doesn't give up his title, it appears as if we might actually have a storyline play out in the pay-per-view, unless I missed something on SmackDown. But I think Roman Reigns, and I think we're seeing a storyline develop with the Bautista finally saying adios again. You know, I think everyone got excited for him coming back, and then he came back, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, he sucks. So, I think what you're going to see is this. I can never remember the name of their faction with AAA. Evolution, thank you. I think you're going to see Evolution kind of pick up a couple of members. And I think it's going to be at the expense of the Shield, and I think Roman Reigns becomes that baby face. Now, on the other side of it, you guys know it. I've said it already twice today. I am all in on the Wyatt family, and I hope we get some sort of conclusion to this Cena feud or something else develops out of it, because to me, WWE's intention was have the Wyatts brawl with Cena, so Cena returns to being that over-the-top babyface. Well, the exact opposite has happened. Everyone's still booing Cena, and Bray Wyatt is more popular than ever, as is the Wyatt family. So I think you have two potential superstars, depending on how WWE plays it, in Roman Reigns and in Bray Wyatt right now. But I don't know how they're going to play it, guys. I don't know what the angle they're going to go. Is it going to become an ego trip for Triple H to where it's like, Daniel Bryan's going out, I need to push myself back up to the top because I don't trust anyone? Is it going to be, boy, I really hope it's not this, I really hope it's not this Russian gimmick that they're trying to go with, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you, Ruskov. I don't know from that perspective, but to me, I don't know what you guys think. I don't know what you talked about, Pop, but I think it's Roman Reigns and I think it's Bray Wyatt right now, two guys that could really step in. And that potential heel turn of Sheamus, I think, is going to be something to keep an eye on as well.
Don't leave Cesaro out of this picture.
Yeah, and especially with Paul Heyman now. When you put Paul Heyman with the guy, it usually works. Now, we have an example with Henning's kid where it really hasn't, you know, and with Ryback for a short amount of time where it really didn't. But I think when you have a guy that has kind of that in-the-ring skill that we talked about, that old-school mentality, and, you know, Pop and I have actually talked about this a lot because he doesn't get the whole Cesaro thing, nor really do I. But the way people react to him, you can't ignore it. You know, when it's not it's not the who was the yo guy or the internet guy that got a lot of fame.
Zack Ryder.
Zack Ryder, right? And it's not like a Zack Ryder thing, Chip. You know, it's not like a Zack Ryder thing to where, hey, they all love him, then he goes out there and he sucks. You know, this is a guy that I think Cesaro has made his mark because he is so fun to watch. So I think you're right, WB. I think Cesaro is definitely a guy to keep an eye on in that mix because you have someone that can work the mic like Heyman. To me, and if, you know, still the greatest moment of 2014 was when Heyman sits in the middle of the ring and basically diffuses the whole Raw takeover in Chicago. I mean, you talk about uploading something. You have a guy that's got that powerful of a mic skill. I think you do have a guy, especially with the trend upward for Cesaro recently.
Man, I tell you, we have so many possible dynamic directions that this could go just with that small group of people that we've been talking about. And I cannot think of anybody else who might be kind of sitting on the sidelines getting ready to pop. I know one guy, they have two guys that recently made their debuts, and I think both of them are going to have shorter fuses than I have never mind. And that's going to be the Bo Dallas and also Adam Rose. I think their gimmicks are already beginning to burn out, especially Bo Dallas.
Believe,
I believe. That's a shame because his promotional videos are far better than his actual performance. His promotional videos are dynamite. And then he gets in the ring, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? So, you know, and maybe there's too much stuff circling around CM Punk. I mean, I think we're now on the third time I've been on with you guys where I'm almost begging for him to return, and every time it doesn't happen, and he'll make these comments about, hey, I'm retired from wrestling, so it allows me to do a lot of things. I'm sorry, CM Punk may say he's retired from wrestling, but that's really kind of that's what butters the bread, man. Well, and you know, it kind of gets back to what we were talking about radio earlier. You know, this gets into our blood, and wrestling has got to get into their blood.
No, it's not going to go anywhere for him. You're right.
I think a sad thing, and I just don't see any way to avoid this with CM Punk, is I really think AJ Lee is going to have some pressure put on her from the political side. I think it'll be unintended. I don't think it'll be anything overt. or anything just absolutely threatening. But I don't see how they can possibly avoid not at least dropping subtle hints of, hey, tonight at the dinner table, or when you get up in the morning, why don't you say something?
Or then that eventual, hey, listen, if Punk doesn't come back, we're not renewing your contract. You're fired. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we're going to fire you and we're going to start minimizing your role, and we're going to start minimizing your character. But listen, your husband needs to be here. He needs to be part of this deal. So I can't tell you that I believe right now, but I want to see it happen.
Well, even with CM Punk being said, it only takes one phone call, and for Vince McMahon, and right now is really kind of a perfect opportunity. Daniel Bryan's on the shelf. Payback is tomorrow in Chicago. It only takes one phone call, one incredible offer that CM Punk cannot turn down for that man to return. We've seen Vince McMahon get over grudges before, except for Macho Man. He's the only one that he can't seem to get over that one. But he gets over grudges. He gives people second chances, and really to get guys like that back, you have to make them an offer they can't refuse. With Daniel Bryan on the shelf, I mean, that would be the first person I would call, and I would say without a shadow of doubt that call's been made. It's just a waiting game to see if it's actually come to fruition.
Hey, and from what I read, and I definitely spend way too much of my free time reading about it, apparently CM Punk and Vince actually have a pretty good relationship with each other. Apparently it's not all, hey, I hate you and what you've done to my character. Apparently they have a pretty decent relationship. So maybe they're just giving him January, February, about 5 months now, 6 months that he needs to recharge his batteries. Now, is this the old double? Is the pay-per-view in Chicago and then Raw in Chicago too, or are they moving on Monday for Raw? Do you know? I know that's maybe
they're moving on.
Because Sunday night's going to be a great night to be in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Because you got Game 7 between the Kings and the Blackhawks on Sunday night too, and then the Payback pay-per-view. I didn't even realize it was in Chicago. So this will be a big Sunday night for WWE to, I hope, help develop some storylines. And you know what? I've seen everything about the WWE Network. I get the frustration with some of the pay-per-views because anymore, guys, it seems like, and I guess this is how TV shows work, you think you're going to get some sort of finality at a pay-per-view, and usually all it does is carry something over to Raw. But I think, I would hope, you would have to imagine with the way things are set up, Payback on Sunday night is going to be a pay-per-view where you're finally going to get some answers.
Yeah, because the fact that we're going to see storylines, I think the Wyatt Cena's storyline is going to come to an end. Shield Evolution, that's going to come to an end.
Has to, right.
I mean, where do they go? I mean, Monday night's going to be a really incredible Raw to watch just because of the fact that we're going to be able to see these new storylines develop.
Sunday night is a good night for those who have invested in these storylines. If you follow them throughout, Sunday night's going to be a good night because you're going to get some finality. Monday night might be for those that are like, okay, enough of Wyatt versus Cena. Now let's see what is hopefully going to be what carries the WWE over the next couple of months as we head down to SummerSlam.
Now, of course, even before SummerSlam, one of my favorite pay-per-views, Money in the Bank, is going to come up before that, which is always a opportunity to develop stars, and I think that's where we will be able to find out who WWE really wants to push to make a main event player and possibly take Daniel, not take his place, but be able to fill in while Daniel Bryan's gone. So
they failed last year, I think, with the push they tried with Money in the Bank. And again, not everyone's going to work out 100%. Not everyone's going to win that title shot and be CM Punk or be Edge. That's kind of where Edge made a name for himself with he and Christian flying off ladders. And not everyone's going to have that kind of success. Or heck, I mean, it's so funny. There's a guy that is so over right now that has just disappeared, that won the Money in the Bank, and when he cashed it in, it was one of the greatest pops I've ever heard. What the hell's happened to Dolph Ziggler?
Wow, this is a reoccurring question that comes up over and over again.
Okay.
And so you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. I've asked it before. We've heard it. You're the third time tonight we've heard that question.
He must have pissed in Triple H's Frosted Flakes or something.
Well, something because, that old saying is WWE doesn't care how crazy, loud, pop, cheer you get, because all that says to them is they've already got you. So if you think I'm going to go crazy for Dolph Ziggler, I'm going to chant CM Punk's name and that's going to change anything, apparently that's not the case. But this is one of those guys that's that combination of skilled wrestler, solid mic worker. He's paid his dues in some really crappy storylines. So, I mean, that's one of those guys that when you start thinking about Money in the Bank, what a great time to have his character start to reappear, because he made a name for himself with winning it last year and getting that title shot. So that's a great point, Chip. It's really an opportunity for WWE to showcase some young talent, and I'm really excited to see what direction they go here. And when is that? Is that in late June when that pay-per-view is, I think?
It's the next one. Yeah, it's the next one.
So that's one to look forward to. And then SummerSlam is, I have 3 that I get a year. I get Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, and WrestleMania. So SummerSlam is coming up for me, and that's one of, I guess, the triple crown of pay-per-views for me. Yeah. So, and this is going to be interesting to see what WWE does with some of its superstars now that its champion looks like he's going to be out for a little bit.
You know, they do a lot of great things in WWE with their own gimmicks, you know, like with the tables, ladders, and chairs. They have the Battle Royal
Rumble?
Yep.
Yeah, Royal
Rumble, yeah.
But I wish they would bring back some other stuff, like old school stuff, like the four-post matches, maybe even a good old-fashioned handcuffed cowbell match that they used to have every now and then.
War games. I've been asking for war games for years.
War games would be awesome.
What was War Games the one at WCW where they would put the 4 rings together?
It was actually it was the one where they put 2 rings together and it was a giant cage, and he had like teams of 4 or 5 battle it out.
I loved War Games. That was one of my favorites. Yeah,
on WWE
absolutely.
Network, I've been able to rewatch all those, and some of them were horrendous, but some of them were a lot of fun.
Great,
at the risk of sounding narcissistic, I would hope that the WWE would listen to podcasts like ours, because I know ours is not the only one that comes up with these conclusions. These are very common.
It's so easy. Why aren't they doing it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would make sense. Man, I tell you what, Plank, it is always an honor to have you on. This being a show we were dividing up among a number of people, of course, it kind of shortened the segments a bit.
Good.
So, dude, I can't tell you, we definitely got to have you back on. We got to get you back on for another full show.
Absolutely. I love it.
Oh, gosh. You have such a strong insight into the industry. I really appreciate hearing you talk. And, man, your energy level is just, every time I get finished, I got to go take a shower.
Well, I tell my wife always makes fun of me because, you know, there might be weeks where I go without watching Raw, but I'll know what's going on. And it's always like, how do you know this? Why do you know this? You know? And my son is always wanting to get into it. So I love it. It's always been a passion of mine. I love chatting with you guys. I'm pumped to be on your anniversary show, and I hope that we get many, many more years of podcasts like this because wrestling fans deserve it and need it. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Awesome. Chris, thank you so much for joining us, bud.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Thanks, WB. Thanks, Chip. See you guys.
Wow.
Man, I tell you, this is the end of the first year, but the beginning of many years to come. Absolutely. This has really been a hell of a ride this year, hasn't it?
It's been 1 year, one heck of a year. Looking forward to the second year. We're working on some major guests to appear on the show. I got one that hasn't confirmed, so I'm not going to say anything, but late summer, I'll be able to have some real-time professional wrestling personalities on our show.
Oh, gosh. You almost get a little misty-eyed.
You do.
You know, and it was you, by the way, I don't think we've ever addressed this, but the idea for this show originated with Chip.
Right.
Chip was the one who came up with this. He approached me. I kind of dragged my feet for a few weeks, didn't want to do it. But, you know, this is the best decision I've ever made.
We do it for the wrestling fans, and we'll continue to do it for the wrestling fans.
Join us next week right here on